So, my original intention with making videos and posting them on YouTube, it um, it it was to create like a video journal, something I can follow, have a frame of reference, and be able to look back on times throughout my life. And although it hasn't been going on for very long, only you know a handful of months now, I am quickly realizing that things will change and develop, and the original intention will always be there, but just as much as I'd like to help myself, I also want to help other people and to reach other people, and that's something that I hope in doing this, in making these videos. I also want to open things up to discussion because, as you'll see in this video today, I talk about things that I don't really know a lot about. And so, having experienced things that I don't really know a lot about, of course, I want to learn. And I've talked about this before, and I'll talk about it again. It's really crucial to learning. Uh, to be able to converse with other people that share similar experiences and maybe know something that you don't. So, the topic for this video, it's been a long time coming. It is loneliness. And loneliness is a difficult topic because it is, maybe not something we all experience in the same way. We all have different expectations as far as, meeting our social needs, but as people, we have them. We have social needs. It's not our primary survival instincts, but it is definitely crucial to our survival. Um, and as social creatures, humans must have that. It's just like how no life can survive without water at some time during its life. There are things that can go years without water, but if they haven't had or been not subjected, but in the presence of water at some time during their life, they just cannot survive. There isn't, as far as I know, there aren't any organisms that exist that, where there are ones that can survive without oxygen or without, social experience or whatever else. There aren't any that can survive without water. And that's how I see humans. While we have varying degrees of social needs, while some of us can live out in the woods with a dog for, a decade, and some of us can or can't, go without talking to people, for a day. We all have varying degrees of our social needs, and so meeting those is different for everyone, but it doesn't change the fact that we all have them. And so that's my point is, or the point that I'm trying to make is that loneliness is something that we may all experience in different ways, but that we can all, relate to one another in one way or another, because I think most people, if not all people, experience loneliness, um, you know, at one time or another in their lives, and whether they recognize it or not, it's very frequent, especially today in the modern age, when we are so interconnected. It doesn't seem like loneliness would be as large of an issue, but from research and just in my own reading and in my own understanding of loneliness, it's today, more than ever, that people feel lonely and report feeling lonely. And now that could be because we are able to reach more people and get the census or that data, the statistics for that. But, it would make sense because I think for one, you know, we have all this structure, and I mentioned interconnection, but really I think we've begun to replace traditional means of social, um, our social outlets. We've begun to replace them with less traditional, less interactive, less direct, more you know I guess you would say what's the word? More more of a casual approach to our social, you know, meeting our social needs. For instance, playing games online with our friends, or keeping up with people that we know through social media rather than talking to them. Texting and calling. Even we saw this with email. I think when we talk to someone and we hear their voice on a call versus when we send a text, even, there's a big difference there. But I think all around, when it's digital and we aren't expressing body language and we aren't giving that person our full attention, being there in person with them, I think there's definitely a difference as far as the social yield that we get from that. And so it's just an interesting thing to consider. Another thing is with social media and seeing all of these things going on, and all these what would you say? It's like ideal situations in which we receive or meet our social needs. I think we start to develop unrealistic expectations, and when I say that, you may have particular things that come to mind as far as technology goes and the way the internet has developed. If you are familiar with one of, if not the primary reason the internet was developed in the first place, you may know what I'm talking about. But things like, seeing couples or families or social media portrays, and I'm sure that you understand this by now, but it's important to reiterate that social media always portrays the good without the bad, or highlights. People are able to cater to their audience and to filter themselves in such a way that they can appear or come off as less flawed than they really are, and that can that can not help but cause unrealistic expectations. And so when we cut out the bad parts of our lives, or we cut out the bad or the weakness of character, or the times when we're not our best, or whatever else, then or we cut out our development, because we don't always we don't all we don't start at this, there's this growth process. We don't all start at this great strength and strong will, character, whatever else. There's this process of growth and development, and a lot of the time we don't see that with social media. We just see the nice cars and the nice family, and the perfect partner and all this, or we're doing these great things together, and yeah, our expectations for others become unrealistic because we don't see those things, and I think that's another part of it. But I mention this all the time, and I'll mention it again. We are moving very quickly, and things are developing so fast, and there's this kind of pseudo law in computer science and things surrounding that, and you may be familiar with that as well. It's called Moore's Law. Yeah, Moore's Law. And it's the, if I'm remembering correctly, it's the belief that technological advancements advance exponentially, and that roughly they advance, or they double in advancement roughly every 18 months. I think I'm probably butchering that law, but it's not really a law. It's like a pseudo law. It's kind of a myth or a belief, but it's interesting to consider because It originally applied to microprocessors. That's where the Moore's law idea comes from, because microprocessors were being, or in the computer industry, being advanced, or being increased or doubled in their ability every 18 months. And so now we can apply that to a lot of aspects of our society, especially in the technological advancement aspects. And with how quickly things are developing, I always like to make the point of slowing down, because we're always getting all these we're always so overstimulated by so many things, and it's all this instant gratification, and we're seeing all this stuff, and our expectations of everything are so high because we're intaking all this media and dopamine and all these things. And when you start to slow down and think more about things and enjoy things for what they are, and you don't start to expect this instant gratification, then you start to realize that you can get more out of things than you were before, and you don't have to continue to increase the amount, the weight, or the input. You can just garner more output from things. And so I think in slowing down, we're able to reassess our expectations for things and for people and social situations and for partners and etc., as well as enjoy things that we used to and may no longer, or may have never and now can enjoy. And I'll continue to make that point because I think that it's important. But as I mentioned when I started this video, and I'll mention again, loneliness is a topic that I don't know very much about, and I can only infer or hypothesize about, and I can only talk about things that this is a discussion, or I guess really I'm just kind of talking. I would like to have discussion and to learn about this, and I really do. I try to learn as much as I can about it, but this is one of those things that there's such a gray area because we just don't know a whole lot about it, and I think it's becoming such an issue. It is already such an issue, but it's only getting worse. Now, I don't know with the timeline of loneliness that the pandemic, or this pandemic that we had, is the primary predecessor of it. I think that it definitely has made some things difficult for us, and it's definitely changed the course of history and the social structure, completely. And I recognize that it definitely has had an impact, a drastic impact on the world. However, as far as loneliness goes, I don't know, and as I've said, I'll reiterate this again, I can only infer. I'm not an expert in this, especially not in loneliness, but I can only infer that had the pandemic not happened, I don't know that this loneliness issue would be any better. I think the way that we've been going and the way we are continuing, the way that things are, is just, it was bound to happen. I don't think the pandemic has had nearly as much of an impact on loneliness as we perceive it to have. Of course I could be wrong, but I think that it's a lot of these other things that I mentioned. Another thing that it's actually really interesting because I've just personally now seen the impact of this in my life, but AI, or artificial intelligence, and I'm not trying to sound like I don't know what I'm what's the word? I don't mean to sound like opposed to technological advancement, or to sound like I'm out of my, or I don't mean to sound opposed or negative or whatever. I'm just it's interesting to see how artificial intelligence is working and successfully replacing for this young generation so much social, so many social outlets. I mean, and as I said, this has just recently impacted me in my life, but to see my younger siblings, or my younger sibling, one of them, start to replace friends and family with artificial intelligence, and to see now having it affected me, all these other instances and examples of this, this could become a pandemic in itself. Now, is artificial intelligence valuable? That is a discussion for another time. Just as many of the things I mentioned in these videos will have to be videos on their own, and just as I would like to go back and add to or change or develop other ideas that I've talked about, but it's definitely something to consider. And so that would kind of lead me into I guess this would be closing, but I just kind of sit down, I get out what's on my brain at this time. Before I make one of these videos, I will write a couple of the things I want to talk about. Often I don't get to all of them, or I forget, or I go on a tangent, and I really could do a better job at making the videos, and I realize that, and as they develop, I want there to be both apparent and visual improvement. But the most important thing for me is that I'm making a video and I'm getting it out there, not only for me but now for other people, because I want to be able to reach people and to be able to help people however I can, because I've been helped a lot in my life, and I recognize that, and I think discussion is really, really important, and I value it so much. And so in closing, I'll say that this was a video on loneliness, and although I will make many more videos on loneliness, or hope to, and just as I will make many more videos on the topics I have talked about, that I hope I've touched on some of the things I wanted to. I know that I did for the most part, but like I said, I always forget some things. So there will be more. And for the next video I want to work on, it's going to be different from this one. It will be something that I do know about, something that I have experienced quite a bit in my life. It is something very, I would say, it's something difficult to talk about, and it's something difficult to listen, sometimes to listen to someone talk about, but I think it's important to talk about. It's really going to be about, I think, your weaknesses and things like, mainly for me, it would be things like addiction and just feeling like not only have you let yourself down or let others down, but that will be what I have been and what I will be working on. But if you've watched my videos and you've gotten something from them, I'm so glad. If you watch them and you haven't gotten something from them, I hope that I will eventually make something that you do. But thank you for watching them anyway. And I think I've dragged this on long enough, so stay tuned. Thank you for following me thus far, and that's my plan. There will be more loneliness discussion. I want to try to solve these issues as best I can, but I can't do that on my own. So let's work on it together.